So I finally got the new SV08 replacement machine, and this is my Lazy Susan for assembling it. So let's get started unpacking. The box is in a lot better condition than the last one, so I'm pretty optimistic. Alright. So after the first layer of foam, we've got the manual, which is nice and thick. I love thick manuals. Little Wi-Fi password setup thing. A very small amount of filament, 200 grams. Well, what's this got? It's got all the tools and the power cord and a spool holder. So that's in there. And then in the first layer of foam, we've got the flying gantry. And just at a glance, everything looks intact, so I'll set that aside. Then we have the 4Z rods and the tool head. But the cool thing about this is, compared to the last time, everything is where it's supposed to be. So it's kind of cool. Plus, it does look like there's more foam. So the tool head is connected to the base, so I want to set that down there. This I will set aside as well. And a bed that's intact, and everything's intact. Nice to see. Alright. Just go ahead and lift. Okay, I will set this on the Lazy Susan. There we go. Yeah, this piece of foam wasn't in my last box, so it was pretty damaged. So this is the front of the printer. I've never had a 3D printer with flex plate before, but this magnet's really strong. Super excited for the entire experience that I'm going to have with this machine. Alright, first things first is manual. Alright, here's the Sovol SV08 base plate. I took the fan out of the bottom to test the sound before assembling it and powering it on and stuff, and I do not feel the need to mod the cooling fan for the MCU currently. In the future, I probably will, but for now, go ahead and put this thing together. So I'll start with the Z legs. So the first step for assembling the Sovol SV08 will be installing the 4 Z-axis corners on the 3D printer, which include the motion system for the flying gantry in the Z-axis. Installing these 4 corners is very easy, and they're basically all the same. You put in, I think it's 5 screws. Really, really easy. Follow the instruction manual. Use the assigned screws in the assigned holes, and everything goes very smoothly. The next step is installing the top frame for holding the 4 Z corners rigidly together. next will be the flying gantry. Installing this is extremely simple as well. You have to apply a little bit of force, getting it to snap into the brackets on the 4 Z belts, but it's extremely easy. Following the instruction manual is important. There are a couple of screws on each corner that hold it down, and once it gets fit in, then yeah, you just screw those screws in and you have a flying gantry installed on the 3D printer. Up next is the tool head, and installing this again is easy. You just snap it into the bracket on the x-axis carriage. The x-axis carriage is where you put the tool head, and you screw in the couple of screws that the manual specifies, pop on the cover, and you've got yourself a tool head. I'll then attach the cable harness to the back of the machine. This was not a great idea because I took it off a couple minutes later when I went to install the enclosure. Now I'll be installing the PTFE tube for the filament, and then flip the printer up so I can plug in all 4 Z-axis motors for the Z-axis movement. I will then plug in the cable for the LED and the camera for the Sovol. I'll then use the included plastic clips to clip together the PTFE tube and the wiring harness to keep them together and more rigid. I'll then install the filament runout sensor without the spool holder because it wouldn't fit on my workbench if I had the spool holder on there. Ready for installing the enclosure, which includes the cable chain on the back of the 3D printer. Installing this is a little bit fiddly, but you got to be patient and do it. Got to do a lot of screwing, and then you got to make sure the harness has enough room to go all the way to the other end of the 3D printer. It's a little bit fiddly, but I figured it out, and it took me a little longer because I'm trying to do it the best I can. Next, I'll install the enclosure. Installing the back has a exhaust fan, which is pretty simple. You just run the wire through the small cutout in the aluminum plate and run it into the 3D printer where the wiring plug is for that. It's really simple, and following the manual is really the easiest thing. Install like a dozen or so screws that hold the plate on. Repeat the process for the other 2 sides that have metal sheets, just no fan. I'll leave off the glass top and the glass doors for now while I get the 3D printer calibrated. I'll install the spool on my old spool holder from my old 3D printer and run the filament down to the tool head through the PTFE tube and the filament runout sensor. Booting up the 3D printer for the first time is such an amazing feeling, and I'm so excited. It's, yeah, after building the whole thing and waiting for it twice because the first one I received was messed up. So it's fun. And now I'll go into the calibration steps that are laid out in the manual. This will be sped up because it takes a while. Here's some footage of the Benchy that I'm printing, the one that was pre-sliced. The quality is far better than my old printer, and it only took a couple of minutes to print this, which is insane to me. But my old printer was, yeah, very painful to work with. And here you can see the white tube cylinder is from the Sovol, and the purple is from my old 3D printer. You can see the clear difference. The layer height is actually higher on the white cylinder as well, so it's kind of crazy, and I'm super excited. Here is a time lapse of a spool holder that I'm 3D printing for using 3 kilogram roll of filament on the Sovol. It's a really simple design, but yeah, beautiful time lapse coming out of the Sovol. I've never had time lapse, and time lapses are one of my new favorite things. They're just wow. Here is the spool holder with a 3 kilogram roll of Polymaker PETG. And then here are a couple more time lapses of different 3D prints that I did. This is spool holder. But overall, I'm extremely pleased with the 3D printer's print quality, speed, and ease of use. So far, it's been very fun and great to use. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.